Well, after 25 years of representing this area, it's true, no one would know the streets of Maspeth, Meadow Village, Glendale better than Senator Serphin Maltese, who's not only a former chair of the Queens Republican Party, but also of the Conservative Party. He's somebody who has been there fighting for his community and its values for a very long time, and was there at the formation of the Conservative Party when everyone said it couldn't be done. They even elected a United States Senator all by their lonesome, and were able to pull that off in a time where government was way out of control, and they were able to pull the reins back in the bluest of blue states, New York. So Senator Serphin Maltese.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. First of all, I of course want to acknowledge Frank, who served the state Senate since 1972, and he was principled, the most principled guy in the Senate. There's no question about it. He stood up for what we all believe in, and stood up and fought and succeeded most of the time. So I certainly acknowledge my pride in serving with Frank. Bob Turner, no question about it, a dedicated individual, a patriotic American, a veteran, somebody that well represented his district, somebody that stepped forward out of the business community, and unfortunately, because of politics, was cut out of his seat, which is an absolute disgrace, but it's so good to see him here. And of course, Eric Ulrich, one of our party's rising young stars, who's here to help take the Senate, who make a difference in the majority for the Senate, and somebody that we should certainly support. The fellow that we're here to support today is Dan Halloran. My brother and my brother's family, can you hear me? Is that right? Yes. My brother and my brother's family live in his council district. They have for many years. I've known Dan for a while, but let me tell you, there is nobody more outspoken, and we know it. It isn't only the traffic enforcement, it's the car salesmen and others that have to worry about Dan Halloran. And you know, as Congressman Turner mentioned about all the horses for him, we'll leave the other part of the horse's anatomy to his opponent. So they can work their magic if they can. Look, you had an opportunity to see the Republican convention, and you had the opportunity, although most of us, I'm sure, skipped the Democratic convention, but we know what they did. This is a juncture for our country, absolutely no question. Yeah. There has and I know what we said when Reagan ran in '84 and '88, and what Bush ran and so on, but this is it. All those fantasy lovers that thought that Barack Obama was going to be different, that this was the time to elect a black representative to show the beauty of America. And a lot of people in our community and others believed it, and there was nothing wrong with it, because it's 100 years from 1865, 130, 40 years. We made a difference in this country. That's our country, a great democracy. Well, he's had his chance. He's had his chance, and he failed dismally. And not only failed dismally, but in our nation's history, we have never had deficits that we have, unemployment over the long period of time. Well, why is this important to us? Because whether Mitt Romney wins or not, the Congress is absolutely essential and important, and we need a representative. You know, we're having difficulty getting national Republicans to pay attention to this seat, and they should. Many years ago, I ran in 1984 for Congress. Mondale picked Ferrara, and I was running for Congress, and simply could not get the national Republicans to pay attention. And lo and behold, when the time came, I failed by 4 percentage points to win. I'm glad of it, because it enabled me 4 years later to run for the Senate and win. But the fact is, we can't look to the Washington. We can't look to the National Republican Party. It's all on your shoulders to elect Dan Halloran. He's absolutely needed in Congress. We have to make people realize that he is the man that we could support and make a difference. In the Congress, you know, is not going to be an easy race. It's certainly not going to be, and it means that you have to work hard, your neighbors have to work hard, your relatives. Dan will outwork all of you. There's absolutely no question about it. He is courageous, he is outspoken, he's perfect for this district. This used to be known as the extremely diversified, some of you remember that there was a famous program that was representative of this district. Well, this is 30 years later, and this district is probably the most multicultural district in the United States of America. And Dan is the person to represent it, because he represents a multicultural district right now. The fact of the matter is, we need somebody that's going to speak up for American values, for patriotism, for jobs. The most important thing, there's nothing more disgraceful than the fact that many of our public officials have stood by and watched people lose their homes, lose their jobs, lose their futures because of inept politicians. Well, that's not Dan Halloran. I say to you now, help Dan Halloran, support Dan Halloran, and on election day, you'll have Congressman Dan Halloran representing us in the finest American tradition. Thanks for everything.